How do you use positive and negative coordinates to say exactly where a point sits in a two-dimensional shape? This lesson follows that idea from simple plotting to building shapes. You will move from single points to triangles, squares, rectangles, a map question, and a challenge with more than one answer. This session says learners must be able to plot and identify coordinates in two-dimensional shapes. Learners should be able to find the coordinates for specific shapes and could also aim to draw shapes where there are multiple answers. Assessment focuses on understanding how coordinate axes are used in two dimensions, 0, 5, 0, 4. The x-coordinate comes first and the y-coordinate comes second. The lesson begins with plotting points. You are probably familiar with plotting coordinates. That order lets you specify the positions of points clearly and is used throughout every example that follows in this lesson. One marked point is shown with x-coordinate 6 and y-coordinate 4. In coordinate form, that is the point 6, 4. You are then asked to locate another point with x-coordinate 2 and y-coordinate 7. That keeps the same order, x first and y second. A second practice question asks where the point with x-coordinate 9 and y-coordinate 0 should be placed on the grid. This reinforces the same rule. You read the first value as x, then the second as y, even when one coordinate is 0. Next comes a triangle with three named corners. The first corner, point A, has x-coordinate 1 and y-coordinate 1. This example shifts the lesson from plotting single points to identifying the coordinates of corners in a two-dimensional shape on a grid itself. Together, A, B, and C show how coordinates describe an entire shape, not just one position. You then construct a new shape on a grid. First, join the points with coordinates 0 and 3, 5 and 6, and 5 and 0. Those 3 points form a triangle and begin a larger construction exercise on the same diagram later in the lesson. On the same diagram, join another set of points. These coordinates are 2 and 0, 2 and 6, and 7 and 3. After both triangles are drawn on the grid, the question asks you to describe the shape you have now made, which is a star. This star construction is more than a plotting task. It asks you to combine coordinates and then describe the result. That matches the lesson aim of finding coordinates for specific shapes and preparing you to draw shapes where more than one answer can appear later. The coordinate axes are then extended to include negative numbers. This takes the plotting idea beyond positive values alone as well. The lesson says you can see points on the axes with positive and negative coordinates, so positions can be specified across a wider grid. On this extended grid, point A has x-coordinate 3 and y-coordinate 2. Point B has x-coordinate -2 and y-coordinate 5. These examples show that the same plotting rule still applies when negative numbers are included in plotting practice on the axes. You are then asked for the coordinates of more points on the same grid. Point C is -5 and 0. Point D is -4 and -4. These two positions continue the practice of reading exact locations from the axes correctly each time. The remaining points on that grid are E and F. Point E is 0 and -7. Point F is -4 and 3. With A through F together, the exercise checks whether you understand how coordinate axes are used in two-dimensional space well. The lesson then applies coordinates to a map of Paradise Island. You are asked to find the positions of the lighthouse and the pilot boat. Their coordinates are -2 and -3 and 2 and -3. This turns coordinate reading into a location task. The same map also asks for Parrot Rock and Banana Reef. Their coordinates are 13 and 8 and -7 and 5. By naming landmarks instead of plain points, the exercise shows the same coordinate skill in a different setting on the map for learners. The given answer is -6 and -3. Next, you look at constructing squares. One square has a missing corner, and the coordinate given for that corner is 4 and -4. This asks you to use the existing corners of a shape to identify the point that completes it on the grid. A second square is handled in the same way. Its missing corner is 4 and -1. The repeated task strengthens the skill of finding coordinates for specific shapes, not only plotting isolated points on a grid from a diagram, in this lesson for practice. The next construction question changes the shape from a square to a rectangle. Here, the missing corner has coordinates 5 and 1. Even though the shape changes, the job is still to use the grid and the known corners to identify the final point correctly. Determine the final point. The challenge shows a line that is one side of a square and asks for possible coordinates of the other corners. One answer is 1 and 6, with 6 and 3. Another is -5 and -4, with 0 and -7. Do not forget the knowledge check. You have moved from plotting single points to reading coordinates in triangles, a star, map locations, squares, a rectangle, and a square challenge with 2 answers. Along the way, the lesson used positive and negative values on coordinate axes. The final step is to practice these skills with the activities and the knowledge check.